підводити підсумки в січні, і потім ще будете розпочинати.
Для освітян.
Це 200.
It's day 287 of the war. Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform continues this operation. My name is Vasil Samachvalov, and we start our today's briefing. Our first guest is Ruslan HURAK, Head of State Service for Education Quality of Ukraine, and Anastasia DYAKOVA, founder of the Education Project dedicated to the children's security on the internet during the war. And we will find the details a little bit further on. Mr. Ruslan, please start, and we'll continue further on. Hello, dear friends. Thank you for showing interest to such an important issue as security of education. Security of our children during the process of education is very important for us, and the State Service for the Quality of Education during institutional audits pays attention to the safe and comfortable environment. Talking about safe and comfortable environment, it makes a lot of sense because under conditions of pandemic and under circumstances, under conditions of the war, the issue of security becomes first and foremostly important. We demonstrated, we showed our research conducted by the expert of the State Service for Quality of Education, which demonstrated the data on the satisfaction of children and their parents with the security in the educational institutions. The students evaluate the security of the schools. 90% of them corroborate it's a safe place, safe and secure place. However, 10% of the students show that for them that place is insecure. However, there are schools, as I'm talking about separate schools, certain schools where every fourth student told us that they feel insecure in the educational institution. What do we mean under insecurity? How does it influence? What's its impact? What are the components? We pay a lot of attention to those questions, and we would like to talk about that today as well. For us as the State Service for Quality of Education, the security of the children is very important to us during the educational process and during the remote educational process. In particular, we face the challenges faced by the whole of Ukraine today, and 75% of the students today study online. During the remote training, remote study, it's very important to use internet and to work online. What do students do online? How does the work online influence every single child? What's their psychological condition? And what are the results of such education? We talk about that with the teachers, with the directors of the schools, and we discuss it with our experts, with our colleagues, and it's very pleasant to take into account the fact that we joined our efforts with the project of Miss Anastasia DYAKOVA, who got involved in this work on the security of internet during online education. And now we want to summarize our project, and Anastasia will provide more details and more figures. Please. Thank you, Mr. Ruslan. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. It's my pleasure to be here today. I want to thank the State Service for Education Quality for invitation on the eve of the Day of the Rights Protection, which will happen on Saturday. Unfortunately, most of the people don't have idea what is human rights of the children, and our project Stop Sexting is a key project in Ukraine in terms of children's security in Ukraine. We taught more than 700,000 parents and teachers all across Ukraine But back in February and March, our team faced a very serious challenge. How can we be more useful with those, in cooperation with those with whom we worked all that time? We offered the teachers something. We didn't want to offer something that they don't need at the moment, so we questioned all those teachers who were staying there on permanent basis and who were allocated to Ivano-Frankivsk, Lviv Oblast. We questioned more than 500 teachers, and the most important subjects to them were back in April that we identified. First, it's mental health of the teachers themselves, how to support the adequate condition, how to support their families, because we understand that if we're not in a good psychological condition, we cannot provide the normal education process. Second is how to support the parents of the children, because they were carrying a very heavy psychological burden, because the teachers may have different children in their classes, which may be internally relocated, which may be their permanent students, or how to teach them during the air raid alert. That was a huge challenge, even more than during COVID pandemic. And other two subjects were on the security of the children. First, the offline security, what kind of knowledge we have to provide to the children, how should they live in this environment during the war. And the second subject, I mean the fourth in general and second in terms of security, is online security during the war. We thought maybe it's not the top priority, but I will explain further on why we came up with that fourth subject. So we started education in those two regions, Ivano-Frankivsk and Lviv region. We invited 100 teachers in every region. But in Lviv region, we received 2,500 applications for 100 places. So we created two groups of that. The program was going on for 1 month, and the teachers acquired special materials which they can share with the students in PDF and video clips. There were two groups which underwent that education, and we identified very interesting fact that it's not only about knowledge but about psychological health as well, because when they gather they start understanding how they can help each other, how can they support each other. So it's a mental health support as well. So we understood that we cannot stop, and now 17 regions and the city of Kiev are involved in this process. So we already taught 2,000 teachers who transferred their knowledge to 74,000 students now. And we created another program of one-time meetings, and such program already took place in 4 regions, and 6 more will join in January. More than 2,000 teachers already underwent the short program. It would have been impossible without cooperation of the civil sector with the government sector, the State Service for Quality of Education. They do a great job on site supporting the education system in general, supporting the teachers, and the teachers emphasized that it was important for them that the program contained very actual knowledge. Nobody understood why we should teach the children should train them in online and offline security. So it's important that we provided that knowledge to the teachers who transferred that knowledge to the students then, and we taught them how to do it practically. And in April we had a case which made me actually cry. Unfortunately, we had a lot of reasons to cry, but those were tears of joy. On the 3rd day after liberation of the Kiev region, I got a call from the head of the State Service for Quality of Education in Kiev region. She told me, Nastya, we got liberated, so let's proceed with training the teachers. And it was so nice that the region which only just got liberated, they want to continue their education, and we see those trends in other regions. We have trainings in Mykolaiv, Dnipropetrovsk and Kharkiv regions and Sumy region. So we understand those are difficult regions, but there is a huge desire from the heads of the services to train their teachers, and the teachers want to get trained as well. We have the teachers who are under occupation. They join our trainings and they transfer that knowledge to the kids. It's so inspiring to us in terms of how powerful our education system is and how dedicated our teachers are. We've witnessed the demand on part of the teachers for trainings to be provided to the children for both online and offline security for middle school and high school. And with the support of the Ministry of Education, those trainings were provided to the teachers, and we expect a lot of children to undergo that kind of training even before the new year. We plan 10 more trainings in 10 other subjects, but I would like to mention trends that we observe. First of all, in terms of offline security, comparing to April, more or less everybody should understand. We deliver that information to the children, like what if you end up under the debris, or what to do if a child gets lost during evacuation or during mortar fire. The data says that Russia receives 80% of the intelligence from the open sources. Something that we can find online. This is why we teach children what to post, what they may or may not post online, whom they may or may not talk to online. And there are cases when Russia set up communication with our children online and got the information from them. So those are very important issues that we have to communicate to our children. And there is risk online for children who are even outside Ukraine. Is the first war which is going on live on the internet 24/7, and you can see it in every single corner of the world. So even if children are refugees, if they went abroad, they see a lot of this horrific, atrocious content. And on one hand, it gives us an opportunity to show what's going on. The media had standards, what they can publish or they cannot publish, but there is content which we can see in online media, in Telegram channels, which can influence the mental health of us and our children. First of all, it's very necessary to understand to what children see and to talk to them. What should they see, to tell them that they should not open the content which is blurred, because it may be shocking even for adults. Imagine how traumatic it may be for the kids. So we see that people face the emotional swings due to that. Their mood is changing without any solid reasons. Many children have problems with their sleep, and those are the consequences of stress, of psychic health, mental health. This is why I want to emphasize on what we have to do to maintain the children's sleep regime, feeding regime, limit their online time, restrict some websites to explain what they may or may not post online. So the parents, they have to do a lot of work, not only teachers. Maybe this is something that we should not want to deliver, some knowledge we don't want to deliver to our children, but now the circumstances force us to do that. In terms of the intelligence that may be found online, and Ukraine follows all the trends which are common for the whole world. The sexual violence. Our colleagues, they find the sexual content with children online, and they remove it. The child pornography, in fact. So more than 70% of those contact is selfies. So children picture themselves in the bathrooms, so the criminals force the children, make the child pornography, and Ukraine is no exclusion to that. Ukraine may be an exclusion only in terms of investigation, because the war is going on, and it's not always that police may pay significant attention to that. And other cases are when children make an online live. They think, oh, okay, it's a live, I'm not sending any nude photos or videos, but the criminals record those materials and they use it to blackmail children. And another trend is when the criminals force the elder children to get their younger brothers and sisters involved. And colleagues say that 57% of the content found online in this category is with the younger brothers and sisters. So let's not forget that all those risks which existed on the internet, including sexual violence and hazardous quests and bullying, they still remain during war, and without having significant support from teachers and parents, the children bear a lot of psychological burden, and it depends on us as adults whether the children will have this knowledge which will help them not to end up in a situation like that. And secondly, that they would trust us, because the research says that 73% of the kids would never tell any adults what happened online. And this is our problem as adults, how we build this communication and trust between us and our children, because the other 27% would come and tell us what's going on. So it's the question to us as adults, how we set up communication with the kid, how we provide, how will they find support with us. And about the safe and secure environment in the school, I want to agree with Mr. Ruslan, because no school today opened in offline mode without having safe shelter, and many houses in the territory of Ukraine don't have safe shelters. Meanwhile, children still live there. So on one hand, school may provide this safe shelter, and on the other hand, the school in this way may become a safe shelter in terms of mental health. We understand how difficult is the psychological situation in the families, because a lot of parents lost their jobs now. So it's important to make schools such a safe and secure place. And ultimately, the contacts are 24/7 free hotline of Ukrainian contact center, if 1545 then 3. And on the website Stop Sexting, there is a registration form for free psychological consulting if you want to get signed up, or you want to sign up your kids on the issues of psychological violence online. Thank you, Mr. Ruslan, for this productive work. And thank you for having education system involved so deeply. Thank you very much. You told us about very important risks, and there are some more risks related to game industry, for what I understand, that children spend parents' money on online games. Well, comparing to what's more substantial in terms of physical and mental health, and this what you're talking is about the financial health of the families. So more practical things, maybe you should mention what a parent or what a teacher should do, and what a child should know in order to minimize those risks. For the teachers, it's very important to do the preventive work. There are materials posted on the websites of the Ministry of Education and Stop Sexting. So those are the trainings for online and offline security. In more detail, in online security contemplates whom you can or cannot communicate, what post or what not to post online. We see a lot of cases when the children are being added in web chat, so they know somebody and they don't know someone else. So it turns out that 5 different usernames are the same person who tries to pull some information out of the kid. and in some website we see some information which influences our resolutions, but it turns out to be a fake. But what's even worse, we keep sharing that fake, because the people who see our posts, they trust us and they think that we verified that information before posting it. So it's our great responsibility, and our children should have this responsibility too. So when we read the fakes or when we post them, it's our absolute responsibility. So we should fight disinformation and violent content seen by the kids. So those are the key issues on the well, we have other trainings for sexual violence online. And as for the parents, first, discuss what's going on with the kids during the, not to make it, not to try to pose it as if nothing happens. It's there is no stigma now in terms of mental health. If there is a problem, people start going to psychologists. Second, parent control for the smaller and elder kids, limiting their time online, restricting some resources they see online, and depending on the age, which we either block it, or for the elder kids, we discuss it, and we discuss the ways how to better do it. In those terms, there are family treaties, like there are duties and responsibilities, rights and responsibilities of the kids and parents agreed upon by the both parts of the families. And we should become a source of trust for the kids. Well, it's more important even than to transfer the information to the kids. So we offer the meals without gadgets, where we can gather at the table and discuss what's going on. It's very useful for our mental health. This is why the teachers and the parents, they should discuss the risks and create the trustful environment for the kids. Or if I may add, that there is one thing I would like to pay attention to. We talk a lot about the security on the internet, and the teachers have a responsibility to work with the kids to explain them how to use internet, how to work with that, and they do everything possible for that. But we have a situation where we transfer that responsibility. The parents think that the teachers should do that, and the teacher thinks that the parents should do that. And I would like to draw everyone's attention to this issue, to parents, to the directors of the school, to the councils of teachers, to civil organizations in area of education. Don't wait, communicate, discuss those questions. If you see that your child spends a lot of time for online study, find time to discuss with the teacher what's going on, why does it happen. Was it really a lot of homework that makes the child sit at the computer so long until late night? Don't look for somebody to do it for you. Discuss it with the teachers, communicate, and you will come up to the necessary conclusions you're looking to. Your questions, Seshana Ukrinform. I have a question to Miss Anastasia. Does the cyber police get a lot of complaints for bullying, and are there any cases which were filed to the court as a suits? It's a complicated question. On one hand, I would like the results to be better, and on the other hand, I understand that we end up in the circumstances that we do. As to the specific statistics, I think you better ask the cyber police, because we don't have this information provided by them, but we see the requirement in Ukraine to have the materials of sexual materials involving children to be created. Unfortunately, this issue is not being paid necessary attention, notwithstanding all the communication with police and the team of the minister. We cannot move it from a dead point. Lately, Ukraine finally criminalized grooming and storage of child pornography. We adopted the law, but there should be someone who investigates it and then files the cases to the court. So on the face cooperation with police, there are big issues. So next year, or when we eventually win this war, police will be able to pay necessary attention to it, because the issues of bullying are being investigated on the basic level without being investigated by cyber police, because there are a lot of crimes committed online, for example, the robberies and the sharing of child pornography is, for example, being investigated by cyber police. For example, in Britain, they have a CEOP department which includes 2,000 people. In Ukraine, it's not even 100 times smaller. So I hope that next year police will pay better attention to this issue. As to statistics, you better submit the official request, but many people neglect reporting to the police, even notwithstanding the fact that the investigations are going on. Okay, we will ask that question from the law enforcement agencies. So I have another question to Mr. Ruslan. Is there any research on how the online education influences the kids? We had COVID previously, now it's war. Well, obviously such research exists not only in Ukraine but all over the world. Many countries paid attention to the quality of education online after the pandemic and the challenges posed by pandemic, and there was unity in opinion of all the countries. Everybody understands that we have educational losses during education during pandemic. How is it expressed? How is it demonstrated in Ukraine and all over the world? We questioned the teachers. How do they think that there are losses in terms of education during quarantine and remote education? And the majority of the teachers demonstrated that yes, there are losses depending on the subject, depending on the level of education. Those figures are different. You may see them online on the website of the State Service for Quality of Education, and the tests taken in the primary school, they confirmed that trend that we have some educational losses during the pandemic. How it will be reflected during the war, I'm more than sure that we will face that challenge. It will continue to exist because the quality of education is a very sensitive indicator that reflects not only economic, psychological and mental challenges, but such challenge as a war will influence it a lot. But what's even more important, that we have understanding and teachers have understanding of these losses in education, which they may mitigate in a balanced, unaggressive manner, or at least try to do so, to give that material which our children require now. And maybe the last question to you for today: what should happen, or what should the government has to do in order to improve the component of security online in terms of education or for children in general? I already mentioned it, that sometimes we transfer the responsibility, like here's the government, here's the Service for Quality of Education, here are teachers, but is there some concrete set of actions? Well, it's contemplated by the legislation, by our regulations. So the government created these basic rules of the game which should be adhered to. What is the way they are implemented is the complicated and the very long-term work, which requires a lot of effort on the part of the government, of the state services, and we do everything we can to demonstrate what are their challenges today, to try to evaluate them, and not only solve the problem when it already emerged, when it's already arisen, but to create some process of prevention to prevent those risks which emerge for the kids in both online and online modes. I would divide this question into 4 parts. It's preventive work, what we do in terms of investigation, and work with the victims and the channels for reporting of for the victims. If we talk about prevention, we we're happy that the schools get involved, but they get involved on a volunteer basis. Somebody wants to and somebody don't want, and they don't get involved. I was talking to our British colleagues yesterday, and they showed the law which exists in Great Britain on the safe educational environment, and it says that the school should provide the children's security online, providing necessary materials on online security, and it should provide the trainings for the teachers themselves. And it was the answer to my question: why do the schools pay the civil organizations for giving trainings to them? In Ukraine, we cannot invite everybody. Somebody gets involved, but in Britain they do because the law obliges them to do so. So it's our first contribution on part of prevention. And the second part is the investigation. This is what I was talking about, those as the special units to be created in police, which would investigate those crimes. And the third thing is the removal of such content from the World Widest Web. In Ukraine, it's virtually impossible to remove the child pornography from the internet, and it's a huge shame for Ukraine. We discussed that question in the parliament the year before the adoption of the law 3055, and we've seen a lot of lobby on part of IT hosters in the parliament who don't want to implement all those challenges, all those changes, because all those hosters and providers, they don't want to do all that work. But if you're hosting child pornography, you're supposed to remove it, and everywhere in the world there are tools everywhere in the world. So even if the parliament says that the government will use it for censure, for political censure, there are a lot of examples in the world when it's done by non-government organizations. And so it's very sad when we have a child who unfortunately ended up in such crime, and they come to police, and police does not react in a necessary way, and this content follows the child even if they get relocated, and it becomes trauma, psychological trauma for the kid during the whole life. And the next thing is work with psychologists and social workers who would have understood the specificity of online risk and how to work with a kid who suffered raping online. Well, sometimes people think, okay, it happened online, and the consequences of this impossibility to remove the content, they last for years. In Great Britain, even in Great Britain, they say that it's been, for example, 13 years, and they see this or that child being raped using online instruments. So work with the victims, maybe in classes, work with the families. And the schools, they should have policies on how they should work. You know, like if child finds out, they tell another, they tell the teacher tells another teacher, and that tells the director and the librarian. So basically everybody knows in the school, and the child gets stigmatized in this way. So for me, those are the 5-6 basic steps that we not only can do, but we should do, so our children could have a decent life online. I appreciate this comprehensive information you provided. We will talk to Dmytro Zhivitsky, the military governor of Sumy region. We will ask how do they organize the education process in Sumy region. Thank you for your attention. See you